Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our channel. What happens when a powerful billionaire pulls the trigger on the one man who can destroy him? And even worse, what happens if that man survives? A tense late night confrontation between ruthless tycoon Grayson Hale and investigative journalist Jacob Vaughn explodes into violence inside Hale's mansion. One gunshot changes everything. Jacob collapses, the police arrive, and the entire city of Fairmont Crest suddenly finds itself at the center of a scandal that could destroy powerful people and uncover secrets someone is willing to kill for. Alright, let's break down this intense story step up by step. Because what unfolded in Fairmont Crest feels less like a simple crime and more like the beginning of a full blown power war. At the center of it all is Jacob Vaughan, a fearless investigative journalist known for chasing dangerous truths that most people would rather keep buried. Over the years, Jacob had exposed corruption, scandals, and criminal networks that powerful figures desperately tried to hide. That reputation had earned him both admiration and enemies, but the information Jacob discovered this time was on a completely different level. Hidden in his pocket was a small flash drive. To anyone else, it would like insignificant, but the file stored on the device had the power to destroy carriers, collapse massive corporations, and send at least one extremely powerful man straight to prison. That man was Grayson Hale. Grayson Hale was the definition of a self made empire builder. From the outside, he looked like the perfect success story wealthy, influential, and untouchable. His mansion towered over the city from the heights of Fairmont Crest, symbolizing the dominance he had built over the years through calculated decisions and ruthless strategy. But that night, inside his private study, Grayson was not the calm, controlled man the public believed him to be. The room around him was elegant and quiet, shelves filled with books lined the walls. The scent of polished leather and aged whiskey hanging in the air. Yet, despite the luxury surrounding him, Grayson's nerves were unraveling. His hands trembled slightly as he poured another glass of whiskey. It was a rare moment of weakness for a man who normally never showed fear, because earlier that evening, Jacob Vaughan had called him. The message Jacob delivered during that phone call had shaken Grayson more than he wanted to admit. Jacob didn't bother with politeness. His tone was directly and chilling. We need to talk, he had said. Grayson had tried to act unimpressed at first, brushing the conversation off like it was nothing serious. But Jacob continued speaking calmly, revealing just enough to make it clear he knew far more than he should. He mentioned hidden money, offshore accounts, and people who had mysteriously disappeared after getting too close to Grayson's business dealings. Then Jacob dropped the final bomb. I have proof. He said, meet me tonight, or tomorrow morning the entire world finds out. Now Jacob was coming to the mansion. Outside the estate gates, a sleek black sedan rolled to a stop under the dim streetlights. Jacob stepped out slowly, his eyes scanning the massive property in front of him. The mansion looked quiet, too quiet. Something about the stillness made his instincts flare with warning. As a journalist who had spent years digging into dangerous stories, Jacob knew when a situation felt wrong, and tonight felt very wrong. But Jacob had come too far to turn back now. What he didn't realize was that he wasn't the only one watching the Hale estate that night. Across the street, another car sat parked in the shadows. Inside, it was Naomi Dupree. Naomi had accidentally overheard a conversation days earlier that revealed Jacob was planning to confront Grayson Hale. Since then, she had quietly been following his movements, worried that the confrontation might spiral into something dangerous. Now, watching Jacob walk towards the gate, Naomi gripped her phone tightly. Don't do this. Jacob, she sparred nervously, but it was already too late. Inside the mansion, the doorbell echoed through the long hallway. The sound cut through the silence like a warning bell. Grayson stiffened. The moment had arrived when the two men finally stood face to face in the study. The tension in the room was immediate and overwhelming. It felt less like a conversation and more like two rivals preparing for battle. Jacob wasted no time with small talk. You are finished, Grayson, he said calmly. Then he began listing the crimes he had uncovered: the illegal land deals, the bribery schemes, the fake charities used to funnel millions of dollars through hidden accounts. Grayson listened without reacting much. His expression remained calm, but there was a hardness in his eye. You have always had a talent for drama, Jacob, Grayson replied coldly. Jacob reached into his jacket and placed the flash drive onto the desk between them. One copy. He explained there are others. Then he leaned forward slightly. If anything happens to me, the files go publicly automatically. Grayson laid out small laugh, through the tension in the room continued to build. You really think you have beaten me? He said. Jacob didn't hesitate. I know I have. The air between them felt electric. Outside, Naomi had slipped through the estate gates as was slowly moving toward the house, trying to reach the study before the confrontation turned violent. Inside, Grayson stepped closer to Jacob. What exactly do you want? Grayson asked. The truth, Jacob replied, and the confession. That was the moment Grayson's patience finally snapped. You should have stayed out of this, he said quietly. Then he opened a drawer in the desk. Jacob froze. Inside the drawer was a gun. Grayson slowly picked it up. Grayson, Jacob warned carefully. But Grayson's mind was already spiraling. The threats, the fear of losing his empire, the pressure of the secret Jacob had uncovered. Everything had pushed him to the edge. You have no idea what you have stepped into, Grayson said. Jacob raised his hand slightly. Though, surprisingly, he didn't look afraid. You won't do it. He said you are too smart. But Grayson felt like his entire world was collapsing. You were the one who made this worse. He snapped. Then the gun fired. The gunshot ripped through the night like thunder. Outside Naomi screamed. Inside the study, Jacob staggered backward in shock. For a brief moment, everything seemed frozen in time. Then Jacob collapsed onto the floor. Blood spread across the polished wood beneath him. Grayson stood there staring down in disbelief. Oh my god, he whispered. The gun slipped from his hand. Seconds later, Naomi burst into the room and froze at the horrifying sight. Grayson, what did you do? She gasped. Grayson didn't answer. Jacob lay motionless, or at least it looked that way. Minutes later, police sirens echoed through the quiet streets of Fairmont Crest as flashing lights surrounded the mansion. Paramedics rushed inside. Detectives began securing the scene. Leading the investigation was Detective Marcus Bennett, who stepped into the study with a grim expression. What happened here? He asked. Nami glanced at Grayson, who still hadn't spoken. He shot him, he said quietly. Paramedics immediately began checking Jacob for signs of his life. Then one of them suddenly spoke. Wait. The entire room went silent. I've got a pulse. Nami gasped. Grayson's eyes widened. Jacob Vaughan wasn't dead, but he was critically injured. As paramedics rushed him out on a stretcher, Detective Bennett turned to Grayson. You are coming with us. Grayson didn't resist. Outside the estate gates, reporters were already gathering as news spread rapidly across the city. Grayson Hale had shot Jacob Vaughan, but inside the speeding ambulance, Jacob drifted in and out of consciousness as doctors fought to keep him alive, and one terrifying question remained. If Jacob survived, what would he reveal? Across town, in a quiet apartment, another player entered the story. A mysterious woman sat watching the breaking news on television. The headline flashed across the screen. Jacob Vaughan, critical condition. The woman leaned forward slowly. Well, she murmured, that complicates things. She picked up her phone and dialed a number. He's still alive, she said. There was a pause. Then she smiled slightly. If he wakes up, he will make sure he never talks. Meanwhile, at the hospital, doctors rushed Jacob into emergency surgery while Naomi waited anxiously in the hallway. The confrontation replayed again and again in her mind. Something didn't feel right. Grayson was ruthless, yes, but reckless. That didn't seem like him. And Jacob had mentioned something before the shooting, multiple copies of the evidence. If that was true, someone else out there knew the entire truth, and that person might be in danger too. Hours later, a sergeant finally walked into the waiting room. Naomi stood up instantly. Is he alive? She asked. The doctor hesitated before answering. For now, he said quietly, but the next 24 hours will determine everything. Across the city, Grayson sat alone inside a jail cell. replaying the moment again and again in his mind. The gun, the shot, Jacob falling to the floor. But one thought kept haunting him. What if Jacob survived? Because if Jacob lived, Grayson's nightmare would only be beginning. And beyond the gates of Fairmont Crest, powerful forces were already preparing for the next move. This moment isn't just about a shooting, it's the beginning of a massive power struggle. If Jacob survives and the evidence he collected becomes public, Grayson's empire could collapse overnight. Businesses might fall, political alliances could break apart, and powerful people connected to those secrets might do anything to stop the truth from coming out. At the same time, the appearance of that mysterious woman hints that Grayson may not even be the biggest player in this story. If others are involved in the corruption Jacob uncovered, they might be willing to go even further to protect themselves. That means the real danger might only be starting. Honestly, what makes this story so grieving is the psychological tension. It's not just a simple crime drama, it's a layered conflict between truth and power. Jacob represents the relentless search for truth, while Grayson represents the extreme lengths people will go to protect their empire. And that final twist with the mysterious women watching the news that suggests the conspiracy is much bigger than anyone realizes, which means the next chapter of this story could get even darker. Right now, everything hangs on a single question: will Jacob Vaughn survive? Because if he wakes up, he might expose secrets powerful enough to destroy entire empires. But if the people behind those secrets get to him first, the truth might disappear forever. So let me ask you something. Do you think Grayson Hale acted alone, or is there a bigger conspiracy behind all of this? Do you believe Jacob will survive and expose the truth? And who do you think that mysterious woman really works for? Drop your theories in the comments below, because this story is just getting started. And if you enjoy intense mystery stories like this, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next twist. Because trust me, the next chapter of the story could change everything.